Welcome to Alpha Insights. I'm Jordan. Today we've got a compact, policy-focused briefing on cannabis. And joining me is James, a London-based analyst who follows regulatory risk closely. Remember, if you have questions as we go, you can ask us at stockalpha.ai. Quick note, U.S. markets were closed for Juneteenth, so we won't see fresh intraday trading data from today. The last trading day was Thursday, June 18th, and markets reopen on Monday, June 22nd.
Thanks, Jordan. Good to be here. The headlines are really centered on two federal developments: a unanimous Supreme Court decision clarifying that cannabis consumers can possess firearms, and an administrative law judge at the DEA laying out timelines for a rescheduling hearing later this month. Those moves together push more of the legal debate up to the federal level, and that has implications for access, compliance, and valuations across the sector.
Walk me through the Supreme Court decision. What did the court actually do, and why does it matter beyond the headlines?
Right, so the court's ruling in the Hermani matter says people who consume cannabis are not categorically barred under the Second Amendment from possessing firearms. The practical effect is it removes one area of legal uncertainty for consumers and for businesses that advise them. So the real question here is how federal enforcement agencies respond. Prosecutors, the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, because their guidance will determine whether this is a durable reduction in compliance risk or just a paper change.
Right. And the DEA procedural order, that sounds pretty technical. Why should investors care about a timeline for a hearing?
It is technical, but it matters. The chief administrative law judge set a 12-page order that lays out who files what and when in the rescheduling proceeding, tied to the petition to move marijuana out of Schedule 1. I mean, when you look at the data on past administrative processes, procedural clarity often reduces uncertainty and compresses the market's timeline for outcomes. That doesn't guarantee rescheduling will happen, but it moves the conversation from if to when and how. And that affects banking access, tax treatment, and licensing expectations.
Interesting. State-level policy still looks messy. Kentucky pulled back an executive order on out-of-state medical access, and there's pushback in Virginia over penalties. How do those local moves square with the federal momentum?
They show the classic patchwork problem. Federal signals may be improving, but states still set the on-the-ground rules. Kentucky's rescission tightens access for some registered patients and could slow growth in that region. Honestly, I was a bit surprised by this one. Virginia's debate over public consumption fines tied to a sales bill is another reminder that legalization at the state level can come with new regulatory costs. Operators with concentrated exposure in affected states face more immediate risk, while diversified players, or those focused on adult use markets in more permissive states, may see relative benefits.
So, heading into the long weekend, and with markets reopening on Monday, what should listeners be watching closely?
Watch a few catalysts. First, filings and any interim rulings in the DEA rescheduling docket later this month. Those will drive expectations about whether federal classification actually changes. Second, statements from the Department of Justice and the ATF after the Supreme Court ruling. Those will guide enforcement priorities. Third, the Virginia vote next week and any guidance from the Kentucky Department of Health on implementation. And fourth, expect sector ETFs and major operators to price in these policy shifts when markets reopen. Think major multi-state operators like Green Thumb Industries and Curaleaf, and producers such as Tilray Brands and Trulieve, along with broad cannabis sector ETFs. Yeah, that's a good point. Trading volume and volatility could pick up as participants reprice risk. For practical investor considerations, and I'm speaking generally, not giving advice, analysts note that this is a moment to reassess state concentration in portfolios, check public filings for exposure to regulatory risk, and watch official agency guidance. Data suggests the market will respond to clarity more quickly than to ambiguity, So position sizing and volatility plans matter heading into the reopen.
Great. Before we go, can you give us 2 or 3 quick takeaways?
Sure. 1. The Supreme Court ruling reduces one federal compliance headache, but does not change scheduling. That remains a separate administrative process. 2. The DEA's procedural order moves rescheduling from an open question into a defined hearing phase, which compresses uncertainty and creates catalysts. 3. State policies are still uneven. Kentucky and Virginia show how regional moves can offset or amplify federal trends. So watch state-level developments closely.
Thanks, James. That was clear and actionable. Again, not investment advice, just things to monitor. If you have questions about anything we discussed today, you can ask us directly at stockalpha.ai. We answer listener questions live. And for more market insights, head over to stockalpha.ai. Markets were closed for Juneteenth, so remember the last close we have is as of Thursday, June 18th, and trading resumes Monday, June 22nd.
Thanks, Jordan. See you next week.